Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John, and this is episode 265. Each week, I sit down here at my headquarters, which is also my office in my basement, and answer your questions. Listen, if you have a question, send it to podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer every question that comes in. I'm always happy to help you in any way I possibly can. So let's get on with today's questions. Daniel, what a great name. Thanks for pinging. In Easy Strength for Fat Loss and on the podcast, you mentioned fasting until you exercise, but also drinking lots of coffee. Lots and lots and lots and lots of coffee. I've lost 23 pounds over the last year, focusing on the basics of sleeping, fasting, walking, and easy strength. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Daniel. I mean, he lost 23 pounds. That's 2 pounds a month, folks, ish. Close enough. And not doing anything crazy. I mean, what did you do to lose weight? I slept and I walked and I skipped a few meals. What's your secret? I slept and I walked and I skipped a few meals. At the age of 47, I also finally started drinking coffee. Good. Well, okay. By listening to every single one of your podcasts, I get to hear you nag until I finally decide to follow the advice. And of course, your advice works. I blush. Maybe this is a life hack. Purposely setting up nagging for the things you want to do. Now my question, what have you found out about what to do to add to coffee? Simply drinking black coffee, yes, that's what I do, compared to adding fat like Bulletproof coffee or protein powder. Is black best for fat loss, while protein powder is best for gaining lean muscle, and fat is best for suppressing hunger? Or is it the key to just drink coffee and the rest doesn't really matter? So, when Dave Asprey first came out with Bulletproof coffee, my friends Steve Ledbetter got me to look into it. And I actually, I think I'm one of I talked to Dave twice on the phone. I want to say I did one of his podcasts. I don't look good, it's back when I used to podcast. I was terrible. It's just, you can barely even see me. It's just terrible. But I tried the salt-free Bulletproof coffee. I found that interesting. When I added the MCT stuff, I'll just say this. Ain't no way you can go on a Greyhound bus ride across the United States that doesn't have a toilet after taking MCT. I don't know how people do it. That stuff just burns all the way through, literally. Jeez. What did I get from Bulletproof coffee? I will say, you don't get hungry. I have tried adding protein powder to my black coffee, but for me, and I take the advice of, I've had conversation with Brad Pellin and a number of other people I have great respect for. One of the things I did resort back to is when I fast, now I fast. So now I don't consider water, tea, or coffee, just black coffee, breaking the fast. That's my opinion, and I think a lot of people might agree with me. I don't know, but I think there's some value in experimenting with some of these ideas, like adding protein powder to coffee and adding no salt butter to coffee. And folks, this is the problem on my podcast. I said experiment. I didn't say this is the last word, this is the right thing. If we had 10,000 people we could study, and we we had a big cohort, make no dietary change, a big cohort drink Bulletproof coffee, a big cohort drink coffee with protein powder, and a big cohort just drink black coffee, and then we were able to get them all to lift weights, go for a walk, monitor their protein, veggie, water, monitor their sleep. At the end of a 5-year study, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I mean, it'd be fun because some of the Bulletproof coffee people might be saying, this is the best thing I ever did to my intellect. Some other people might have. So I think a lot of it's going to be up to the individual. I think that's the most correct answer. Daniel, this is a good question. I kind of wish sometimes I would have stayed a little bit longer studying the Bulletproof coffee and some of those other biohack ideas. My knock on biohacking is that sometimes there's some braggadocio that really doesn't fit what's going on. When I, bragging about I got myself down to that one, the 5.5. Kevin asks a question here, and he says this: I'm 53 and do a power building program with mostly all compound lifts and 100 kettlebell swings 5 to 6 days a week, but I love cardio because of the endorphins and how it makes me feel mentally. So I started running 7 miles on a treadmill at 7 miles per hour on my off days from strength training. Is this going to affect my strength gains? And of course, the question here is, does cardio affect strength gains? We have an issue in the field of, whatever we call ourselves today, the fitness industry, but that's not really true. This is more on the performance side. And there's this idea that there's a straight line like this. And on one end is endurance, cardio, and on the other end is pure strength. And that's fine and dandy until you try to put that onto the field of play. I mean, if all you did was train your athletes, the best conditioned athlete the world's ever seen, and then I put an elbow in his helmet or his face, the rules change, okay? And if I have athletes that are, they're all world champion powerlifters, that's fine. But the game is an hour or 90 minutes or whatever. And, if all you ever do is train, a short burst of energy, that doesn't carry over into the needs of the field of play. One thing I would say about you, and just the fact that you're doing compound lifts and 100 swings 5 to 6 days a week, and then you're doing cardio on your off day, my first thought is, where's your off day? At 53, I think my concern with you at 53, Kevin, is that I think and I have nothing against training every day, I do it, but I do think it's time for you to start, putting some full rest days in. I would rather, personally, if you were asking if I was your coach, I would have you do at least 1 or 2 days a week where you did your compound lifts, your 100 kettlebell swings, you did your treadmill, and by God, I can't imagine anything boring than doing a treadmill, but you like it, I guess, all in one day. So the lift, the swing, and the treadmill all in one day, and then the next day is off. You might even find, and if you did that twice a week, that'll give you 2 full off days a week. Now, if you push back at me and say, I gotta work out every day, I'm no therapist, but one of the first things I would ask is why? Why? What if I say I have 100 interactions with people interested in strength or fitness, longevity, whatever? I think 99% of the interactions undersell recovery. Now, it's been nice recently in the podcast, Kevin. You'll see people mention sleep and my stress levels are good. You'll hear people say I do meditation and all that. But in your case, I think you can improve all your qualities by adding rest days so that you can recover. Okay, now for the $1 million question. Will strength gains get hurt by cardio? I'm going to say yes, I think so. Now, we are going to get people who comment that they do these amazing things, but not a lot of people can pull that off. Keeping your cardio up and keeping your strength up is really hard. Now, I get it. I go to workshops and people tell me what they do. They'll show me videos of stuff. And very often it's like, you also, it seems like you take substances to help you do some other things too. But for the bulk of us, we have to make those trade-offs. A place I'd like you to look at, Kevin, is I'd like, if you can, to look up the training of decathletes. One of the things that's fascinating about Olympic decathletes is how much they struggle in the 1500 meters. I've never seen an Olympic decathlon that doesn't end in, basically, it almost looks like yeah, it almost looks like a MASH unit at the end. They all know the 1500's coming. They all know to train for it, but to run a hard 400 meters, to run the hurdles, to run the sprint, the 100, to do the throwing events, the pole vault, the high jump, the long jump, and then just run 1500 meters. That's only basically about 4 laps, and it kills them. So it is hard to be powerful, and it's hard to be extremely powerful and run a great marathon time. My brother Gary, whom I love, and everyone knows that who listens to the podcast, he was an elite distance runner who became a thrower, and an elite distance runner. He was really good, really good. And when someone says, "Oh, I ran a marathon," he'll say, "What was your time?" And they'll say a number, and he goes, "Well," and he's pretty to the point. He'll say, "Well, a 4.5-hour marathon isn't running a marathon. That's walking a marathon." And people get pissy about it, but there's some truth to it. I'm looking forward to the day where I see a guy deadlift 1,000 pounds and then run a 2:09 marathon, because I would be impressed by that. It's really hard. There is an impact both ways anytime. Now, having said that, go look at the decathletes. There's some other 400 intermediate runners, I think, blend power and endurance really well. When you look at the way they train, I think you get some insights about that band of where to be when you're blending cardiovascular conditioning with strength and power. And honestly, I gotta tell you, I don't see it right away, and I know it's up there, but there it is on the far left. Larry Myers' book, Training with Cerity. Percy Cerity, in fact, a new book about him is coming out. I wrote the foreword, and I think Percy Cerity, the great Australian track and field coach, he's one of the few people ever to really emphasize the importance of strength for endurance athletes and endurance training for strength and power athletes. But you'll know, one asked a question. He says this. He goes, "I'm 44. I just came off a long, difficult fat loss diet." Oh boy, these questions scare me right from the get-go. "It took me about 6 months to go from 185 to 160, good for you, without losing too much muscle." That's a good diet. "I can finally see my abdominal muscles. With that said, I still lost muscle. Yeah. I'm 6'2" now and about 160 pounds. I look muscular, but very small. My strength is non-existent at this point." So this has been my concern. That's why I'm reading this question, folks. "And since dieting for so long, I have taken into exercise bulimia issue. It was so hard and miserable to lose so much body fat that it's difficult to let it go now. However, I know I have to go back to normal, even though I constantly convince myself that I have no reason to do it for. It's very difficult living with this mentality now. But I realize that I need to get stronger now and put on a bit of mass. I was thinking of the Mass Made Simple program. However, I can't get past the idea of the fat that I will gain. Like I said, dieting this long has really affected me mentally in this issue. In your opinion, do you think the Mass Made Simple program would actually help break the cycle? I myself think it might be the way of facing my demons, gaining fat and eating normal again. Please advise." Well, first off, I'm impressed that you lost 25 pounds in 6 months. But we just had another person talk about losing about the same amount in a year by just walking sleeping, drinking coffee, easy strength, walking, and then eating. I think the reason I was I wouldn't say excited about answering your question. Let me just say this: I'm answering this question with a lot of trepidation because this is actually leaning into maybe something you might need to sit down and talk with somebody who's a lot more skilled at this than I am. I'm not talking about the weightlifting. I'm talking about the emotional side. It's not my strength. But when and I want all the listeners to hear this. Just Eat, that great book by Barry Eastbrook back there. Just Eat. He goes through that terrible. We have to drink cayenne pepper and like a little bit of maple syrup, and you do that for 2 weeks. Maybe you lose, if you can do it for 2 weeks. Nobody does. Say you lose 10 pounds. That weight is back on you and more in 2 days. Quick weight loss leads to yo-yoing. There is an advantage you're having right now, one, and the advantage is that you are linked in to this diet, and there's some value in that. You got to ask yourself some big questions, and I can't answer them for you. I mean, do you feel good on this diet that you're doing? Because if you feel good and you can maintain that just a little bit longer, there's a good chance that you're going to beat that yo-yo syndrome that everyone goes through. Lose weight, put it back on. Lose weight, put it back on. Lose weight, put it back on. I am convinced, and I think there's probably already some research that agrees with this. I think yo-yoing your weight is probably worse than staying a little bit obese all the time. I know that sounds weird, but I just think you put your body through a lot of difficult stresses when you yo-yo. Mass Made Simple is your answer. Anybody who does Mass Made Simple, I got to be honest, you get a little strange doing it because it is such an all-out battle to put on weight. In your case, one, would I recommend it? Well, I'm going to say yes, but specifically for some of the things you said here. You want to put on mass, but you're also afraid to put it on fat. In Mass Made Simple, done correctly, if you finish it in the 6 weeks, you might put on fat. I remember, in fact, a lot of you had fun with the one person who complained online that in a 6-week period, they did Mass Made Simple, and they complained because they put on 14 pounds on the scale, and then they did a scan and found out 2 of the pounds were fat, and they were devastated. And it's like 12 pounds of lean body mass in 6 weeks, 2 pounds a week. Now, I mean, I know if people have done better, but still, 2 pounds of lean body mass a week. I mean, just, go to the store and look at how big 12 pounds of just muscle of meat is. This is a lot of meat, not including the fat. That's a lot of meat. So yeah, you can put some fat on, but the other thing you got to remember when you put the fat on, that if you do add these, let's just say 12 pounds of lean body mass, that's going to click your engine up. That's going to switch your thermostat up in your body. Those 12 pounds are going to burn a lot of calories. So, I mean, I'm going to say yes, but at the same time, give yourself some space, give yourself some grace. Look closer with what's going on with this diet stuff. And also, all my other listeners, just remember, one didn't lose that much weight with a real strict diet. And now, a couple months later, we're dealing with some other issues. So just remember, folks, when it comes to weight loss, think more like the tortoise and less like the hare, okay? It's also the motto of the Richmond Greyhound, the soccer football team from Ted Lasso. But, slow and steady gets the job done. And when we rush things, other things seem to happen too. Okay? Thank you. A great question. And let me know how it goes. Got a question from Mike. And Mike says this. What advice would you have for someone who wants to include kettlebell work into their training, but only has incremental weights of single bells? I swear, Mike, I've answered this dozens of times, but it's always a good question. I normally stick to single kettlebell work. I enjoy the sense of stability, or tying together the X, as Tim Anderson would say. A shout out to Tim Anderson. Good. That single bell training seems to provide. I agree. But recently I've been developing a hankering for some double kettlebell work, and remember reading a section of Return of the Kettlebell that highlights a heavy, medium, light split for clean and presses that you came up using pairs of mixed weight kettlebells. Yeah, I remember Pavel not believing in mixed weight bells, but I've had nothing but good success with it. And I usually use that weird number that if you have the 32 in this hand, have the 16 here. I like the 2-to-1, so you're still getting the benefits of instability. And when you go, it's kind of a fun workout. If you're doing double kettlebell clean and press, I'll make it simple. You got the 40 here, you got the 20 here, and you do your 5 presses, put the weight down. When you step to the other side, now you got the 40 on this side and the 20 on this side. It's a great way to get a lot of reps in. And I got to tell you, those odd weights, you get a lot of reps in. You get like when you add up the number of heavy reps you got in, they're high. Because I've always thought that it was almost tonic in the way the lighter bells were going. You got that big bell, you got that light bell, but it just seems to, I don't know, grease the groove or whatever, lubricate the system or whatever. Somebody come up with a name for that and we'll sell a book. What has been your experience, either yourself or others, with this approach? Do you think this double kettlebell method has any advantages or disadvantages compared to the traditional symmetrical double weight work? Are there any exercises you would avoid with this approach, such as fast lifts like the double jerk? I've already answered the question by the time we got here, but I do like this question on the ones you would avoid. I like uneven double kettlebell swings. I like them a lot. It really does exacerbate any issues you have in the swing, because if you find yourself starting to roll or do weird stuff, it'll show right up, man. Double overhead ballistics, yeah, okay. I can understand why you'd say that. I'm not going to say, no, never. God, it's the worst thing ever. But unless you have your technique really locked down, the ballistic overhead work should never be done unless you have it locked down. But even with unevens, you just got to make sure you're a little bit safer. The advantages of this system, by God, you can get a lot of sets in. You can do sets of, let's go back to that 23 and 16. So we got the 23 and the 16, okay? Let's just say you can do 5 with the did I say 23? Boy, age. With the 32 and the 16. Okay, let's just say you can do 5 presses with the 32. So to make this workout work, we'll do 2s and 3s. So you do doubles here, you got the 16 here, you got the 32 here. You switch side, you do doubles with the weights the other way. Then you do 3s, then you do 3s, then you do 2s, then you do 2s, then you do 3s, 2s, 2s. When you add it up, you did a lot of 32s, but when you add up all the presses, you did a lot of presses. You get the advantage of hypertrophy and good old-fashioned pure strength training, right? You're playing with the hypertrophy matrix and the strength and the power matrix. Yeah, I think that's the advantage. For most of our listeners, if you have let's just say all you got is 2 bells, one's a 24 and one's a 20, spend a long time exhausting the options you have with those bells before you buy a new one. Don't buy a new one until you have to. I don't sell bells, so that's why I say this kind of thing. It's funny. Just keep looking for new ideas, new ways, because the more you use this, the better it is for this. Okay? Good question. Thank you. Jerry asked a question. I hope this is my old friend, Dr. Jerry. I haven't seen you in a while and I miss you. In your ABF book, fantastic book, by the way, you mentioned lunges as being a movement you will not see in your programs. Why is that? Okay. So I've decided I would never answer certain questions again. You know, I'll be honest, I'm tired of answering pull-up questions. You can only answer pull-up questions so many times. Heavy Turkish get-up questions. Why I hate this piece of equipment or why I like it. And the only reason, Jerry, I'm answering your question about lunges, and by the way, the armor building formula is danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore. It's about a program that's based on the armor building complex and high rep presses. Jerry, I just recently had a guy here. He's a famous bodybuilder by the name of John Call, and he cut it from his podcast, but he asked me exercise I don't like, but we didn't finish. He didn't include all of it. At least I thought I could talk more. My knock on lunges, folks, is that they're just overdone. Now, Stu McGill has mentioned that there's some issues that show up. A lot of people doing lunges. In fact, John mentioned that he's got bad knees and lunges kill his knees. I've watched bad trainers just beat the hell out of people with lunges. Fact is, not a lot of sports do you need lunges. I mean, if you're a fencer or you're telemark skier, yeah, you need to use some lunges, I imagine. But for most people, the best lunge they can do is sprint up a hill. The best lunge they can do is run up stadium steps. The best lunge they can do is push a prowler or a car. The best lunge they can do is pull sleds. I just think it's overdone. We have all kinds. My javelin throwers in the summer, and you mentioned this exercise, mentioned the Bulgarian split squat. We do a lot of those with our javelin throwers. But, you know, I mean, it's 3 sets of 8. There's no, and I'm really careful about their technique, and there's a lot of this going on. Yeah, don't overdo it. I've had patella tendonitis in my life, my right knee only, and as I'm rubbing it right now, I can still feel the calcium that's embedded in my patella after all these years. That kind of stuff doesn't go away. It sticks. Patella tendonitis is no joke, man. It is so painful. But once you do these things, they stick. There's no reason for me. And the other thing I think, Jerry, a lot of people miss. So I live in the United States, okay? And it's a interesting place to live sometimes. And I don't know, it's not in the Constitution. I don't know of a state that bans any exercise. My point is this: do anything you guys want. Do anything you want. He mentions doing 8 to 12 reps. In fact, in the Dan John University workout channel, we got lunges in there. I'm lunges all the time. So I've got this movement matrix, okay? It's not going to show up real well here, and I'm sorry. But I got this movement matrix, and it starts with planks, moves to strength training, moves to anti-rotation work, and then it moves to level changes, and then the Olympic lifts. Put together a reasonable progression. There's the other thing, Edna comes in, she's 87 years old, her doctor says she needs to exercise. Personal trainer day one has her do 1,000 lunges. I mean, yeah. So that's always my issue. Make it reasonable, make it logical, use some common sense. And always remember, the highest form of proof in theology is common sense. I think in the weight room, the highest form of correctness, the highest form of right is common sense. Thank you. Dave asked a question, a beautiful name. I have a question about the ABC, Armor Building Complex. I'm working my way up in the weights, and currently I am at double 16s. My problem is that while I can comfortably clean and press the 16s, I struggle with the 3 front squats after 6 rounds or so. Should I cap it out at 6 rounds and work on my squat separately, or go lighter and carry on? For context, I'm training for triathlons, so run, bike, and swim during the week and strength train twice a week. One is circuit-based, the other is ABC. I'm 82 kilograms and a mere pup at 57 years of age. I love it. Isn't this interesting? Those of you who listen to the podcast, or you're over there on the Reddit thread, or over at the forum at Dan John University, or over at the forum at Strong First that talks about the ABC every day. This is a great, interesting question, because, Dave, most people complain about the press. The press. That's why there's only one, is because people, now, okay, hi, I'm Dan, and I'm very good at pressing. I'd much rather have the armor building complex be 2 cleans, 5 presses, and a drink of water. But sadly, some idiot, me, came up with this. I think this. I like the idea that you want to cap it off at 6 rounds. I think that's going to be okay. But one thing I'd like you to do is, if you don't mind, as you go up to rounds 4, 5, and 6, so do just the 6 for a workout or 2. Just, give yourself a little grace. Oh, that's all. Dan said to do this. Oh, I'm so happy. And then I want you to rest the next maybe a workout. So 1 or 2, 3 workouts with just 6. And then have a workout where after round 3 or 4, you rest like 2 or 3 minutes. After round, let's say it was 4. Round 5, 2 or 3 minutes rest. Round 6, 2 or 3 minutes rest. And then try a round 7 and experiment. And then try to answer to your tail. Is it my glutes? Is it my, we call it anaconda strength, but you lock down. Is it that? Is it your quads? What is it that's killing you on that 7th set? And then I think would be a good thing is you'd reach back to me, or sit down, fold your arms, do this, and think as a triathlete if you really need to do more than that. I think that if you could make it work, I would love to see you do the ABC workout maybe, and then followed by a biathlon. So on the day you do the ABC, bike and run right after. And get a sense for, is your issue just exhausted lower body, or is it that you need more strength? I know this, that if you can get yourself up, those front squats up, I think it's going to help you on the bike, almost for sure. And I think it's going to help you along. Neil asked a question, and there's a lot of little language in there, so hold on. For someone looking to make moderate strength gains with short amount of time to dedicate to each workout, say only an hour lunch break, including commute to the gym, change, again with freshen up. That's why I train at home. But what would be better, the 1 lift a day program or easy strength? Would one be better for a beginner than the other? Would ES be a better park benching, and OLD, 1 lift a day, better for bus benching it? Well, it's interesting because, Neil, this is the second time I think I've answered this question in a week. Whenever you're stuck on time, I always argue that you should do easy strength, because the easy strength is built for the one quality of, let's get our strength up in the fastest, most efficient way we can do it. I love 1 lift a day. The biggest problem for most of our listeners is, on that 1 lift a day, what are we going to do? I mean, for me, it's snatch, clean and jerk, front squat, clean, well, when I say snatch and clean and jerk, I mean, you know how to do them. And if you're going to do 1 lift a day, 7 sets of 5 in the power snatch, it's going to really get after you. So my answer is this, and I like your answer. I would argue, as best you can, if you can do 2 months, 4 months of easy strength, and then try a round of 1 lift a day, I think that's golden. So 2 40-day back-to-backs easy strength, and then and then work out a program for 1 lift a day. I would have to say you have to do 1 lift a day for 2, really 3 months before you can dial the load in. It's weird when I see people, they've been doing a program for 2 weeks and they haven't dialed the load in yet. And I'm like, man, I do programs for months at a time and can't dial the load in yet. But I would suggest that 2 back-to-back rounds of easy strength, OLD for 2 to 3 months, and then let's know how that goes. Give me a holler. Tell me what's going on. Okay. Thank you. Interesting question. It's interesting it's come up this many times recently too. Eric asked a question. I'm wondering if you have recommendations for how to use easy strength to progress to reach specific strength goals. I did easy strength for an extended period of time last summer. It's only 3 months, but I didn't see the improvements that I was expecting from my main lifts, and I'm wondering if you have recommendations as I prepare to do easy strength again this summer. I'm 5'10", 33-year-old male, weighing about 190. My goal is to reach the 1,000-pound club with across the squat, bench, and deadlift. Today's he's at 875. Okay. Some ideas I've considered. Should I try training 3 days a week instead of 5? Should I do more doubles and triples instead of sets of 5? That's a good question. Is there any cadence for which you expect someone to add weight during the program, such as adding 5 pounds? No, there is no, you go by feel, so don't worry about when. Or should I change my expectations and try a different program for this goal? Well, I got to tell you, why did I have such success on easy strength, Eric? Because I did the program exactly as written and never, ever, just obviously I think I'm a thinker and I tried things and some of them were failures. But when I was finally good at easy strength, I did it 5 days a week with the big lifts, 2 sets of 5, with this one little thing. When the weights felt light, I did a set of 5, added weight, did a set of 3, and then I nailed that big double. My most successful round, it's funny I don't talk about this. I don't really talk about this very much, but this would have been 2006, 7, 8. My most successful easy strength rounds were 2 sets of 5, 2 sets of 5, 5 days a week, 5 core lifts, 2 sets of 5. Just boring. I never took the plates off. It was always interesting because I had colored plates, so I had a red, a green, and a yellow always on the incline, which was 255 pounds. And I would come in there, towards the end of the weeks, when I was in good shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One day the weights were just leaping off my chest. And so I did a set of 5. I think I went up to 285, did a set of 3. And I did my lifetime best for a double, 315 for double, which isn't very much, but I hadn't inclined in years. And it just shot off my chest. The same with the thick bar deadlift, which I think is a good thing. If you're training for a big deadlift, easy strength with a thick bar is money. So is the deficit deadlift, but the thick bar is really good. So my biggest thing is dropping to 3 days a week. You certainly could do that. There's wisdom to that. I can't tell you yes or no, though. Doubles, triples is a good idea. But if you're listening, what I'm telling you, I'm going to give you one more answer here. Is there a cadence when you add weight? I don't think so in easy strength. Is there a better program? Yes. Stephen Court, Korte. I'm sure you can still find his 3x3x3. We called it the 3x3x3x3 program. It starts off 3 days a week, bench, deadlift, squat. You do 3 sets of 3. You start at 58% of your best, I think. The next workout, the next week is 60, the next week is 62, the next week is 64. And once you get to certain comfortable lifts, then you add a workout to a 4th workout a week. And then when that gets comfortable, I think you add 5. And then when that gets comfortable, you know where that's going. I love Stephen Court's program. I think there's real wisdom to it. It's 3 sets of 3, which is obviously the easy strength number 2. And you just keep grinding away. Now, people ask me, well, why don't you recommend 58% like Stephen does? And it's like, Because what do you mean by your max? It always comes back to this. I have certain max lifts that I'll never, ever be able to make. Because, I made a lift one time. If I make the lift, I'm national champion. If I miss, I take fourth. Well, you can't expect me on Monday, everyone's standing around the gym, hey, good job. Why don't you clean and jerk that weight again, No, I needed all the pressure of the trip, of the officials, of being at the nationals, of to make that lift. I used to teach my daughters, when a guy bragged about a 200-pound bench press, they would go like this. Oh, I'm so sorry. But, if you say your best bench is 200, but you only train you train maybe once every 2 weeks, you screw around most of the time in your gym, you're constantly playing with your music selection, you don't work out if you forget your shirt. How I Met Your Mother has a really good episode on that. Versus a guy like me, I still smell from this morning's workout. I'm in the gym throwing weights over my head, your 200-pound bench, if you took that serious, train 3 days a week, like Stefan recommends, but that 200-pound, what's 58% of 200? It ain't much. I'll do it this way. We'll use 100 kilos. If you're going to use 100 kilos, it's 220. Your first workout is what, 125, 130 pounds for 3 sets of 3? There's no weight on the bar. But if you had trained, maybe you'd have a 200 kilo bench. Now 58% at 200 kilos. But so that's why I don't give percents, because what do you mean by that? But if you want to keep doing the easy strength route, I'm all for it. I think there's some wisdom there. If you want to try something new, Stephen Court, Korte, 3x3x3x3. You'll recognize it when you see it. Okay, thanks. Okay, our next question. Michael, as a person on Zepbound, now, I don't know what Zepbound is, but I'm guessing it's one of the semaglutides that we're using now. I'm concerned about maintaining muscle mass while losing weight fat. I'm currently following easy strength for fat loss, but I understand that frequent protein intake can help maintain muscle more than just intermittent fasting. What are your thoughts on the following? On following the protein and creatine intake schedule from Mass Made Simple while doing weight loss drugs and easy strength for weight loss. Okay, so now remember, in Mass Made Simple, we are experimenting. I'm not recommending anything to you. In my own, so folks, if you don't know what the book's about, I recommend 1 week you try out creatine. I know it's not enough time, but it's just the idea. There's another where first thing you wake up in the morning for a week, you try drinking protein first thing. Another week you drink protein right before you go to bed. These are just some experiments. Some of my athletes, there's these very inexpensive protein drinks now. You can get them at Costco. They're pure protein. They're about this tall. I recommend to some of my athletes that you drink half of it right before you go to bed, so 15 grams, right as you're laying down. Ideally, maybe drink a glass of water so it'll wake you up to pee. And when you wake up, you drink that other 15, and the first thing in the morning, you drink the other. I've had some athletes claim that these results almost feel like it's illegal supplements from that. So I don't, those are experiments on Michael. I'm just explaining it for Mass Made Simple. So since I've been getting so many of these questions, I went to a website and looked what they recommend that you do. The first thing I thought was interesting is that basically what my nutritionist told me a couple months ago, that for every gram, I'm going to screw this up again. For every pound that You know, every kilogram that you weigh, you should have 1.5 grams of protein. So if you weigh 100 kilos, you should have 150 grams of protein a day. You don't give me your weight, so I can't do the math for you. So this is the very first thing they have. They have this big chart for the users of these injectables. And the first thing I notice is that I guarantee most of the people who take those, they got great commercials. They're all over Utah's commercials. I watch when I watch Sunday morning on CBS. I bet you half the commercials are these weight loss injections. And so the first thing is, I mean, are you consuming, if you weigh, 90 kilos, that you should have 135 grams of protein a day. And if you weigh 60, you should have 90 grams of protein. If you're 60 kilo, knocking down 90 a day, I mean, it's not as hard as it used to be, because all the protein drinks and powders. But that's not. The second thing is the amount of water they expect you to take in a day is massive. But the thing that amazed me the most is they expect you to walk once or twice a day and lift weights. And the one recommends kettlebell swings, which I thought was really cool. This is the information you get offline on the sites. And I looked it up and I saw it. I thought it was amazing. Folks, 150 grams of protein a day, which is what I strive to do, it can be hard for me. Drinking the amount of water they recommend, it can be hard. So I guess the first thing before I get started on any of these weight loss drugs, before I get to the exercises, they're asking you to consume a lot of water and a lot of protein, which I applaud. I would say Easy Strength is a really good companion to these weight loss drugs, a really good companion, especially if you do the walk after you lift. Only because Easy Strength for fat loss, with the walking especially, isn't very stressful on your system. Now, you might ask, well, is it stressful to inject yourself once or twice a week with a thing? I don't like needles. I mean, if you've ever seen American Gangster, I'm one of those guys who doesn't like needles, So injecting myself twice a week just kind of gives me the willies. I don't know how the druggies do it personally. I don't know how they do it. But when your body is dropping, and some of the ads say 10 to 20% of your body mass, that's stressful. I mean, weirdly stressful. Some of the stress will be fun. You have to buy new clothes. You might have to change the way your seats work in the car. You bring that seat belt in, get a new belt. It's all good news. It's still stress. Also, too, if you're in a relationship, it's always hard to lose weight when you're in a relationship, because some partners don't like that. So, am I a fan or not a fan of these new drugs? Hey, listen, I don't think you can outrun ultra-processed foods. And I just read that article, and I think it was in The Guardian there in the UK, that 70% of the British diet is now ultra-processed foods. America's right behind with 55 to 60%. Ultra-processed foods, that Lay's commercial, you can only eat just one. These are foods that are made to bypass your normal brain circuitry. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? We know with those tests with the rats, they'll keep pressing those buttons on certain things because they just can't stop. And ultra-processed foods can do that to many. So personally, I'd rather see us get rid of ultra-processed foods, but we have a whole area in the United States called the Midwest that is, these farms are subsidized to make cheap corn, cheap soy. The dairy industry is, and I'm not some lunatic. I'm just telling you the facts, folks. And so there it is, episode 265. Remember, if you have questions, you want to ask something to the podcast, send your question to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer each question. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.